Now, slightly less celebrated issue on the card on Saturday, and something you referred to on commentary, you're very honest, was Campbell Hatton's win, and we have to say that in inverted commas, over Sonni Martinez, which the vast majority of people watching that commented on social media did not feel he deserved to win. In fact, most thought that Sonni Martinez was a clear victor in that fight. What do you make of the decision by the referee, Marcus McDonnell, and just the whole thing that we predominantly in the UK of having a referee as the sole judge in these shorter round fights?
I think it's a really good point, Danny, and it's something that I would like to have had more time on the night getting into, for a debate. It's the sort of thing that actually the old ringside would have been brilliant to have that as a debate this week. Yeah, look, Marcus McDonnell's an A-star, a top-class referee, and judge, and I've always thought that, and I've got a lot of time for him. I didn't agree with the decision in any way, shape or form. Sonni Martinez was robbed. However you look at it, he won the fight, no question. And I think it's bad for Campbell Hatton as well, because I was saying to Matt afterwards, Matt lost early in his career to Andrew Facey, and to have that thing that you've got the victory and then you go away thinking, well, I did that and I'm all right there. Well, I saw Ricky backstage afterwards and he knew that it was a very poor night for Campbell. But it's a learning night. And I think there's a number of things here. I think his education should be, predominantly away from the stage like that. He's got a huge amount of pressure on his shoulders being Ricky's son. I'd like to see him. He was a novice amateur, really. I'd like to see him sort of go back to the sort of small hall shows and learn his trade, not like Ricky. Ricky had a fantastic amateur career. We all knew he was going to become a star. And, it was different. And the way he was dealing with early opponents, he was cutting a swathe through that and he could handle that. Whereas you look at Matt, who didn't have as good amateur career, and Matt had a lot of criticism early as being, Ricky's brother who wasn't as good. And do you know what he did? He battled through and he had a fantastic career in the end, fighting the likes of Canelo, going 12 rounds with Canelo, being a European champion and brought absolutely the best out in himself. And look, we don't know how good Campbell will be, but we know that, he's not actually struggled in his first 3 fights, but certainly didn't look as though, he was going to be like Ricky. And the comparisons are inevitable. And I think that, he's obviously very keen, very dedicated. And, there are elements. He tries the old body shots, but he's got to learn, I think, he's very young. And I think he's got to learn the fundamentals in the gym, in sparring, in sort of fights, maybe away from the spotlight. So there's all of that to take into consideration. I'm sure Ricky will think just that sort of, when he went home on Saturday night. Listen, it was a bad decision. Marcus is human. We're human. We make errors. We make mistakes. We're not judging the fights. It's normally, as you say, the 3 judges or the referee. So we're just unofficial. This is what we saw. It's not necessarily right or wrong, whether the fans agreed with us or didn't. They've got their opinion. It's so subjective. I'm very pleased, actually, that all the judges, although I thought Howard had it too narrow, got it right for Usyk. In our eyes, that Usyk won by 5-6 rounds, however you scored it. It was and that was right, because I think that would have been awful, wouldn't it, if there had been some sort of split decision or something had gone wrong with that, as we've seen happen, obviously, in many fights over the years with judging. And it is subjective, and you look at it and whether you think it's, sometimes judges just, what were they watching? But it is, some people have very different views around the ring, and it is a very subjective area. I personally believe we should have judges for a 6-round fight. I think it's unfair on the referee. They've got enough to do. They're concentrating on sort of splitting the fighters up, making sure that, all the rules are adhered to in the ring. I think it's too much to ask them to judge. But I'm a I think Marcus McDonnell was an excellent official. So I'm not going to sit here and say, look, what was he doing, whatever. He didn't see it like we did, and the majority of people. I thought it was a very bad decision. I thought it was very unfair on Sonni Martinez. And I don't think it does Campbell Hatton or boxing any good. That's my opinion. I do agree with you. I think maybe we should bring 3 judges back, but that's something for the board to look at.
Now, I have to ask, because I completely agree with what you say about kind of building out of the spotlight for Campbell Hatton. Who is it pushing for him to be on these huge shows?
I think, you've got to ask his management and promotional team, Matt. He's with 258, he's with Matchroom, and, he's a big name. He's the name of Hatton. So this is, boxing, this is where the trade and the casuals. So this is what I meant about Usyk not being known to the casual fans. Everyone thought it was going to be Tyson Fury, great fight. It wasn't. Oh, who's this guy? The casual fans thinking, oh, AJ will just beat this guy and then fight Fury. They didn't know. And I think sometimes, we the trade in the casual, for a casual audience, Hatton's a big name. So Campbell Hatton, wow, let's dip in. Let's enjoy this, because we remember Ricky. And I think sometimes you've got to think of the entertainment in a wider sort of base, that that you're getting on an AJ night, you're getting casual fans, and it's an opportunity to see a name and add that to the card. And also because he's popular. He's obviously popular in Manchester and Hyde, and he's gonna have a ton of fans behind him, and he talks well, and he's a bit like Ricky in personality and all of that. And obviously he was a decent amateur. He wasn't a great amateur, but he did okay. He was a novice champion, etc. So there's some talent there, but he's a work in progress. So I think it's a very difficult one. You sort of want to entertain the fans, put the name out there. Look, Connor and Chris have the same pressures, and they're further on and down the line. But they're very sympathetic towards Campbell, because he's going to be judged, each and every time. He's going to be compared to his dad, and he's chartering his own path. And I think we said that a couple of times on Saturday night, that it's his own journey. It's not Ricky's. And I think he'll end up probably having more of a Matthew Hatton type career than a Ricky Hatton type career, even if he ever achieves what Matthew did, which is very high. He might not. We don't know. But I do think that it's time now. They've tried that out. They've put him on the big shows. I think it's time now, in light of that performance, which was, he was competitive. Look, he just didn't win it, in our opinion. So probably for him, I would take him, just to the sort of quieter shows for a while, or certainly further down the card, and just don't give him that, that pressure of, it was almost full, wasn't it, when he came out? A lot of people got in for the whole night. They got in early at Tottenham, and obviously with the traffic issues, they got there early. So really, he was fighting in front of thousands and thousands of people. That's not easy, Danny. Going back to our point of sort of, fighters, have respect for fighters. At any level, have respect for fighters. That's a huge task. He's learning under the big lights and on the big stage. If he looked spectacular and won, you'd have said, "What great bit of event, staging." But he didn't, and I think that now is the time to look again. But I don't promote or manage Campbell Hatton. He's with Matchroom. He's with DAZN. I wish him well. I love the Hatton family. I wish them all well, and he'll come again. But I think actually, if he'd known he'd lost, and he's told he's lost, that's a good thing, because then he'll go back and he'll look at his mistakes more, as opposed to what he thought won him the fight.